Hello and welcome to the second lecture in the introduction section. As I've mentioned before, the course is designed primarily to help you pass the AWS Solutions Architect Associate qualification. And so we should really start with what Amazon give us, which is the exam blueprint. And basically that's a blueprint of exactly what it is you need to know to pass the exam. Now we will go through the exam blueprint. It is a PDF that you can download. You'll be able to download it in the resources section of this course. But basically the table that is most important is this table, which gives you the four different objectives of the course as well as their weighting. Now obviously the most important one is designing highly available, cost-efficient, fault-tolerant and scalable systems, and that gives you a weighting of 60%. Now we will be looking at those different objectives throughout the entire course, but really where you're going to learn this is by doing the assignment, and that's where we're going to design a highly scalable WordPress website, and we're going to use all kinds of different components of the AWS infrastructure to deploy that site. It will be highly available, highly fault tolerant, and you can add as many different nodes to that site as you wish. So that's worth 60%. Implementing and deploying is worth 10%. Again, you will learn implementing and deploying by doing the assignment. Data security. Now they say data security is only worth 20%. It tends to come up in the exam a lot, and there's a specific white paper that you will have to read before doing the exam. We will cover it in the course, but it's a really good idea to read this one white paper because the information in there does come up in the course, in the exam quite a bit. And then there's troubleshooting, which is worth 10%. Now if you're interested in troubleshooting, there will be a DevOps course that I will be doing in the next couple of months, and if you have done this course you will get a coupon for the DevOps course. Just email me and I'll send you a coupon which will make it quite a bit cheaper than what other people are paying for the DevOps course. Okay, so why don't we go and have a look at the actual AWS exam blueprint. And here's the exam blueprint here. So the introduction basically says it's intended for individuals who perform a solutions architect role, and then it will go down to sort of the knowledge that you will require. So you want hands-on experience using compute, networking, storage and database AWS services. We'll be doing loads of hands-on exercises throughout this course. Professional knowledge, experience in architecting large-scale distributed systems. So again, we will be designing a highly scalable site. Understanding of elasticity and scalability concepts, understanding of network technologies and how they relate to AWS. We will be building our own virtual private cloud in this course. A good understanding of all security features and tools that AWS provide and how they relate to a traditional service. A strong understanding of how to interact with AWS through AWS SDKs, that stands for Software Development Kits, AWS APIs, the command line interface and AWS CloudFormation. So throughout this course we will be using the AWS command line interface in particular, and we'll probably have an example of AWS CloudFormation as well. Hands-on experience with AWS deployment and management services, you'll get plenty of that. And then just some general IT knowledge, things like understanding multi-tier architecture. So you have your web servers in the front end, maybe your application servers in the middle, and then your database servers in the back end. And typically those servers would be on separate VLANs or in separate network segments to isolate them from each other. So that's all that's meant by a multi-tier architecture. RDBMS, so that's relational database management systems. So that's things like MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, and then NoSQL. And NoSQL is things like MongoDB, there's CloudAnt, there's CouchDB, and so NoSQL is effectively AWS's DynamoDB service, which runs MongoDB. Then we'll need knowledge of message queuing and enterprise service bus. We'll have familiarity with loose coupling and stateless systems. That really comes down to Amazon's SQS service, and we'll go through some examples of that. Understanding of different consistency models and distributed systems, experience with CDN and performance concepts. So we will be using CloudFront to provide our CDN, and you'll be able to see the performance gains from that. Network experience with route tables, access control lists, firewalls, NAT, HTTP, DNS, IP, and the OSI network. We will cover a lot of that off. Knowledge of RESTful web services, XML, JSON. JSON, we might, in this course, we'll look at writing a JSON script for CloudFormation, which will basically automate your deployment. So that will be the final part of the course. We'll look at writing a JSON script which will allow you to take your WordPress site that you've created in one region and then deploy it to another region. Familiarity with the software development lifecycle, and then work experience with information and application security, including public key encryption, SSH, access credentials, and X509 certificates. So we will cover a lot of that off in this course. There are some training courses that will assist in helping you with the exam preparation. Really, you can go in and have a look at the course link if you want, but by doing this course, we're going to cover off pretty much everything you'll discover on that link. What is important here, though, is the AWS Computing White Papers. So that, in particular, is the AWS, the overview of security processes. That's the important white paper to read because that does come up in the exam a lot. There will be an entire lecture devoted to just that white paper, so if you don't want to read it, don't have to, just watch the lecture, but I would recommend reading that before going in to do the exam. Experience in deploying hybrid systems with on-premise and AWS components. So we'll cover things like Amazon Direct Connect and how we can use hybrid cloud. This is effectively where you're connecting things that are inside your office directly to the AWS cloud, wherever that might be for you. So whether it's in Virginia, or in my case, we often connect into Ireland because that's the closest place to London. And then we'll be utilization of the AWS Architecture Center website. So it might be worth you just clicking on that link and having a look at the architecture site. And just scrolling down, we can see the table that we looked at the start of this lecture. So there's 4 different domains, and that's what the percentages are broken down. So 60% for domain 1, 10% for domain 2, 20% for domain 3, and then 10% for the domain 4. Now, if we go into each domain, just down here, it tells you specifically what they're looking for. So in domain 1, which is worth 60%, content may include the following. So how to design cloud services, planning and design, monitoring, familiarity with the best practices, developing to a client specification, including pricing and cost, architectural trade-off decisions, integrating with existing development environments and building highly scalable architecture, elasticity and scalability. Scroll down to domain 2, this section's worth 10%, and this is identify the appropriate techniques and methods using Amazon EC2 and Amazon S3, Elastic Beanstalk, CloudFormation, Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, and AWS Identity Access Management to code and implement a cloud solution. Content may include the following: configure an Amazon machine image, we'll do that throughout the course, operate and extend service management in the private cloud, configure compliance in the private and public cloud, launching instances in a variety of geographical regions. Domain 3 is data security. This is worth 20%, but like I said, this tends to come up in the exam a lot. So we'll go through all kinds of different data security models. We'll use identity access management and two-factor authentication to lock down our AWS account. We will look at things like encryption. How do we encrypt an S3 bucket? We'll go through data security a lot throughout the course. So that is worth 20%. There's also, like I mentioned previously, a white paper that you should definitely read. And then domain 4 is troubleshooting, which is worth 10%. So that's the exam blueprint. Again, the course will cover everything that's in the exam blueprint. We'll keep coming back to the important elements, in particular data security. So that's it for this lecture. Go ahead and go on to the next one. Thank you.